Oh, should have prepared first. I'm live. Hello, everyone. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your 4-week-old chick update. We have not lost a single one, which is awesome. And I thought that the weather was going to be nice and clear when we put them out in here, but the second day they were out, we received probably an inch of rain and a very aggressive thunderstorm. Lots of lightning, not a lot of wind, but a lot of rain. It was really pretty gnarly to experience. It was probably the hardest rain I had ever experienced. That happened when these guys were out here on their second day. Took it like a champ. No issues at all. As you can see, last week there was no dandelion. Now the dandelion is going gangbusters and everything's going smoothly. So 300 chicks. First two shelters are male. It's about 75 in each. These last two shelters are female. These 300 birds are eating about 100 pounds of feed a day. And that's a non-GMO corn and soy based feed. They're eating 100 pounds per day. So that'd be 1/3 of a pound per chicken per day that these guys are eating at this stage in their life. These birds are drinking, all 300 of them, about 20 gallons of water a day, give or take, depending on how hot it is. And this past week, speaking of hot, was very hot for Michigan. It was close to 90 degrees every day for like 4 days in a row. Hot. Very hot. When the birds are this small, it's not a huge concern, heat. Especially if it was warm in the brooder before you moved them out. So these guys handled it fine. We didn't lose a single one. Again, like I said, haven't lost a single one in a whole week. They're doing good. They have learned to move with the shelter, instantly. And this is probably a good thing to mention. So the first year we did this, we moved our first batch out to pasture when they were 4 weeks old. Got a big old bumblebee flying around me. Lots of bees out here, which is really cool. Anyway, first batch we moved out when they were 4 weeks old, and they were the dumbest birds ever. A 4-week-old broiler. Put them in this shelter. It took them a good 5 days to learn how to walk forward with the shelter. I needed someone behind there with a stick beating on the back of the shelter, scaring them away when they were 4 weeks old. Now, the next batch we moved out when they were 3 weeks old. They were fine. They were super smart. And then all the time after that, we move them out at 3 weeks and a couple days, and they learn so much more quickly than a 4-week-old broiler. So that was really interesting to me. Really cool. I'll give you guys a peek at the males. You can see how pink they are. That pink is their skin showing through their kind of fuzz there. They're not fully covered with feathers because they're growing a lot faster than the hens. So take a look at them. See the front edge of their wing and kind of their thigh and their butt are pink. Not a lot of feathers on them just because they grow so quickly. Then we'll come over and look at the hens, and you can see now that the hens are pretty much completely feathered out. See how pretty they are? They're almost completely white. A little bit smaller because they're female. Sorry if I'm sexist, but the females are smaller. They are physically smaller. And they got more feathers. So that's the biggest difference. They eat a little bit less, drink a little bit less because they're growing slower. So, we have not had any signs of predation. No digging around the shelters, which was really cool. And this is our third year doing this, and we've never had anything get into the shelters. Now, you can see this first chicken shelter we made out of chicken wire, as opposed to, where's my hand? Hardware cloth. We have 1/2 inch hardware cloth on the side. This is 1/2 inch by 1 inch, like a mesh on the top, which is probably overkill. It's a lot heavier than it needs to be. But as I was saying, this first one we used chicken wire because this was our first concept shelter before we built the rest. We were building this one saying, we've never built one before, let's build it, see how hard it is, come up with a plan as we build this one as to how we're going to build the other 3 very efficiently. So we had chicken wire when we did this. Now, chicken wire is fine in my experience for the top of the shelter, for the front of the shelter, and for the top of the back of the shelter. But as you can see, we have hardware cloth on the bottom 12 inches. So we cut a strip of hardware cloth, and we wired it onto the chicken mesh. That's because the birds tend to sleep in the corners of the shelter and near the back. And so when they do that, animals can reach through whatever material you have back there, grab a wing, grab a leg, grab a neck, bite the head off, all that not so good stuff. And so when you put the hardware cloth there, it prevents raccoons and possums from being able to stick their hand through and eat your chickens. So that has worked fine. We have seen paw prints on this back, the steel that's on that flaps down. I found like manure or scat, I guess you would call, from some sort of small mammal on top of the shelters. I've seen paw prints on the shelters. We've had person say that they have seen fox on top of the shelters looking down into them. We have had our neighbor over here kill 2 coyotes about 150 yards that way last year, and they're all around. I see fox on this road going that way. Here in the summertime, I'll see them every other day. Every other day I'll see fox. They live in this woods back here where it's kind of swampy. They love it here. They love all the rodents, and that's my biggest guess as to why we don't have much predation at all. We don't have much predation. 0 predation. I see hawks on this telephone pole all the time, but the small mammals don't attack our birds. I think it's because we have lots of wetland all around this area. This is all wet. Our neighbor here has an artesian well that always flows, and that flows from his property. It overflows their irrigation pond. That's what they drilled the well for. Comes across and comes down our drainage ditch into like a wetland area we have back here, all back across our property and then onto the neighbor's property. So there's a lot of water here. See those reeds down there? There's standing water down there almost all the time. And so that means there's lots of vegetation growth. And that means there's lots of seeds. And that means there's lots of mice and voles. There's lots of small rodents here. And so all the mammals, all the predatory mammals like fox and coyotes, there's lots of rabbit, there's lots of small mammals for them to eat, so they're never like hungry. Where in places like Arizona, Colorado, if you put one of these shelters out, and the bobcats and the coyotes and the dingoes and the El Chupacabras that they have down there, that's like really, really tempting for them because there's nothing out there. But so that's my theory. Could be completely not true at all, but that's my theory as to why we don't have predation problems, or we've been really, really lucky and these will all be dead tomorrow. Or some of them might be dead. That's a possibility. So that's all I can think of for 4-week-old chicks. I mean, We haven't lost a single. We've only lost 2, which is insane. That's the best we've ever done, ever. And I attribute that to building our brooder so that it was very small when we first got them, so it was easy to heat and it was not drafty, not as drafty as our other brooders. And so they were very warm their first week. Once they were about a week old, excuse me, we took down those dividers and opened them up to the rest of the brooder so they had more room to roam, and the temperature started to drop then. And so they were really warm right up front. I think it did them a whole lot of good. I don't think we've done a bad job in the past, but that seemed to really do the trick this year. So we haven't had any losses. We haven't had any health issues. The temperature has been really high, which when they're this small is really good. In past years, it has been 28, 25 degrees at night, like the day after we brought them out, and that year we had a 7% mortality rate. Our first year was 3.3%. Last year was a little over 7%. This year, I don't know what it is yet, but we haven't had a whole lot of sickness. So I'm not really concerned with the bird flu going around. I would imagine these guys have some, they would have a better immunity than a lot of those birds in a conventional farming model. So I'm not worried about them. And we have lots of red-winged blackbirds flying all around. Because we have wetland, there's red-winged blackbirds everywhere. I see them here on the shelters. I see them behind the shelters picking up corn and soybeans not soybeans, but soybean meal and ground corn that the chickens have left. And so there's lots of wild birds around that could be carrying the chicken flu. Oh, I'm not too worried. Then again, we could get very unlucky and all of these could be dead tomorrow. I don't know. That's not my, that is not for me to know, I guess. So not really worried about sickness. Mark Baker at Baker's Green Acres uses biochar as a treatment for coccidiosis. So this is probably a useful tip. So when you put these guys out on pasture, it's a very stressful situation. And for some reason, I don't know why, I don't know if it's natural, I don't know if it's normal, but my broilers, for some reason, when they go through that stressful situation and go out onto pasture, they shed, this is what I've read, that this is what's happening. I don't know for sure, but they'll shed the inner lining of their intestinal wall. It doesn't hurt them. I don't know why they do it. It seems like the stress triggers it. And so what you'll see is kind of a pink, soft tissue material in their manure. And that is what I thought coccidiosis was. So for the first year and a half, I fed biochar every day. I would feed like a cup and a half, a cup in the feed of each shelter every day because I thought they had coccidiosis. But it turns out they did not have coccidiosis, and that it's just kind of a shedding of their intestinal lining. They don't die from it. It doesn't seem to hurt them. I don't know why they do it. I'm kind of interested to learn more about it. But in the end, it turned out that they were not sick. So I don't feed biochar anymore. And so from when we get them to when we process them, I don't feed them biochar. I don't put apple cider vinegar in the water. I don't do honey. I don't do electrolytes. I don't do any of that because we haven't needed to yet. Most of that is due to the hatchery, Town Line Hatchery. They do a friggin-tastic job. They're great. They're here in Michigan. If you're close to Michigan, I highly recommend them. They're fantastic. I can't say enough good things about them. That is it. 4-week-old chicks. I'll quick look for any questions. I don't see any. Anyone watching, if you have any questions, comments, conundrums, or snarks, memorandums, or missives, drop them in now. That's a Wretched Radio reference for anyone who listens to Wretched Radio podcast. Otherwise, I'll hop off of here and go post a video that I have. Because I saw in my analytics that a lot of people watch videos around 1 o'clock on Mondays. That's when most of my audience watches stuff. So I'm like, might as well post it when everyone is there. You can hear the rooster back here in the layer shelter. I've got a video on that, a couple of videos on that on my channel if you want to go see that in action. Thank you, Jeremy. I dig you guys. You guys are cool. I wouldn't be able to, well, I would be able to do this without you, but I wouldn't get, now I'm getting paid a little bit for it from YouTube, a couple $100, which is cool. It's more than nothing. I wasn't expecting to get paid. I just like making the videos, but those guys are chilling. 24 hens we've got over there. Greetings from Chile. I hear people say Chile, and I hear people say Chile. I say Chile because it makes me sound superior to everybody else, and it sounds like that's how it should be said. But that blows my mind that people from all around the world see this stuff. That's insane. I've got a lot of gripes with YouTube. I do, but they offer an like, I couldn't have this reach on my own at all. So I'm grateful to YouTube for allowing me to use this for free. Well, now they get to siphon off 60% of my profits. But all right, I don't see any questions. That's week 4 chick update. I'll catch you guys on the next video. Video coming out here in a couple hours probably, unless something terrible happens. I probably jinxed it.